Mira woke before the sky changed color. The air was cold enough to sting her throat. Rain had worked its way under the torn edge of the shelter roof during the night. It left the ground damp and the blankets heavy. She sat up slowly so she would not wake her daughter too fast. Anna was curled against her side like a small bird, breathing in short, soft bursts. Mira watched her for a moment and felt that old mix of love and worry that never went away. She knew she had to move again before the city fully woke up. She also knew Anna needed one more minute of rest. Around them, the bus station lot looked empty, but it never really was. Footsteps echoed in the distance. A truck rumbled past on the main road. A security light flickered as if it was tired too. Mira kept her bag close because she had learned how fast things could disappear. She checked the pockets that held their most important items, a small phone with little battery, a folded card with emergency numbers, and a paper that had been folded so many times the edges were soft. That paper held an address. That address held a chance. Mira did not let herself think about how thin a chance it was. She focused on the simple steps: stand up, pack, wash her face, and keep moving. Anna stirred and opened her eyes. Her eyes were too serious for her age. She blinked at the gray sky and then at her mother's face. She did not ask why they were there anymore. She had asked enough times before. Still, her voice came out small. She asked if they were going somewhere real today. Mira nodded and tried to smile. She told Anna yes, they were going to see a house. Anna sat up quickly, hope and fear rising at the same time. She asked if it was their house. Mira did not promise anything she could not hold. She said it might be, if they were brave and careful. Anna looked down at her hands and then back at the street. She said she would be brave. Mira believed her. They walked away from the station while the shops were still closed. The sidewalks were wet and shiny. Cars splashed through puddles at the corners. Mira kept Anna on the inside of the walkway, away from traffic, away from strangers who walked too close. She counted their steps without meaning to. Counting steps helped her stay calm. She also counted the coins in her pocket. It was not much. She had enough for a small breakfast if she chose the cheapest place and shared it. She had to decide whether warm food mattered more than saving every coin for later. She chose food. She could feel Anna's ribs when she hugged her. That feeling was not something Mira could accept as normal. They bought 2 plain rolls and a cup of hot tea. Mira let Anna drink the first sips because warmth reached a child's hands faster than it reached a mother's pride. Anna held the cup like it was something precious. Mira watched her drink and felt the tightness in her chest ease a little. Then she unfolded the paper again. The address was written in a neat, careful hand, like someone had tried to be kind even while giving bad news. Mira had received the paper 2 days earlier from a woman at a local help desk. The woman had said the city sometimes sold damaged houses for almost nothing. The woman had also said it could be risky. Mira had not slept much since hearing those words. Risk was not new to her. Still, this was different. This was her last move before she had nothing left to move toward. The walk to the far edge of town took longer than Mira expected. The bus route would have been easier, but she could not spend the money. She carried the bag and kept her pace steady. Anna tried to match her steps. Sometimes Anna talked about small things, like a dog she saw behind a fence, or a bright poster in a window, or a flower growing through a crack in the sidewalk. Mira answered softly because she wanted Anna to keep talking. A quiet child often carried too much alone. Mira wanted to lighten that load any way she could. She listened closely, the way she used to listen before life got sharp. She asked questions so Anna would feel seen. She told herself that attention was also a kind of shelter. As they moved through nicer streets, Anna's voice grew quieter. Warm lights and clean windows made her cautious. People inside cafes laughed without looking around. A man carried a stack of groceries like it was easy. Mira felt invisible and exposed at the same time. She adjusted her coat and kept her eyes forward. She did not want pity. She did not want anger. She wanted to pass through without being stopped. At one crosswalk, Anna held her hand tighter. Mira squeezed back and said they were fine. She repeated it like a small prayer. She did not know if she was trying to convince Anna or herself. Maybe both. The neighborhood near the address was older. The streets were narrower. The trees were taller and bare from winter. The wind here seemed to travel with more force. Mira checked the numbers on the houses as they passed. Her heart beat faster with each step. She could feel Anna watching her face. Mira tried to keep her expression calm, but hope made her eyes bright, and fear made her jaw tight. They turned down a quiet road where weeds grew along the sidewalk. At the end of the road, the house stood alone. It looked like it had been forgotten on purpose. The roof was bent like a tired back. One corner of the porch sagged. The paint peeled in wide dry strips. 2 windows were cracked. A mailbox leaned forward as if it wanted to fall and stay down. Anna stopped walking. Her small hand slipped in Myra's grip because she froze in place. She stared at the house like it could jump at her. Mira understood that look. It was the look of a child who had learned to expect disappointment. Anna's lips parted and then pressed together. She took a slow breath that shook on the way out. She asked the question that Mira had been avoiding in her mind since the moment she got the address. She asked, what if it falls apart? Mira felt the words land inside her chest like a stone. She did not answer right away because she did not want to lie. She also did not want to let fear lead them back to the street. Mira walked closer, step by step, as if the house might change its mind if she moved too fast. She climbed the porch carefully, putting her foot near the strongest boards. The wood groaned, but held. She placed her palm on the front door. The door was rough, but it felt solid. The handle was cold. Mira closed her eyes for a moment and imagined a different morning. She imagined Anna waking up on a clean floor with a blanket that stayed dry. She imagined boiling water in a kitchen that belonged to them. She imagined a door that could close and lock. She imagined standing still without feeling chased by time. Her throat tightened because the picture was so clear it hurt. She opened her eyes and looked back at Anna. Anna had not moved. Mira walked down from the porch and stood beside her. She crouched so their faces were level. Mira told Anna the truth in simple words. She said the house was broken, but broken did not always mean finished. She said they would be careful, and they would listen to the house, and they would leave if it was not safe. Anna's eyes searched her mother's face. Mira kept her voice steady. She told Anna that today was not about a perfect house. She told her it was about a chance to stop running. Anna swallowed and nodded once. She did not smile, but she stepped forward. They climbed the porch together. Mira guided Anna's feet to the stronger boards. The door opened with a long tired sound. Dust floated in the air like tiny gray snow. The inside smelled of old wood and damp corners. Light slipped through gaps in the boards near the windows. The living room was empty except for a broken chair in the corner, and a small pile of leaves that the wind had carried in. Anna held her breath. Mira walked slowly, testing each step. The floor creaked but did not give. Mira turned toward Anna and held out her hand. Anna took it. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was strong. Mira looked around and felt something shift in her. The fear was still there, but it was not alone anymore. Hope stood beside it like a quiet friend. Mira knew they had no promise yet. She knew the city paperwork could fail them. She knew repairs could cost more than she could find. She knew people might laugh at her for trying. Still, she also knew that for the first time in a long time, she was standing inside a place with walls. Those walls did not judge her. They only waited to see if she would fight for them. Mira squeezed Anna's hand and took one more step forward. She told herself this was where the next part of their life began. She did not know how it would end. She only knew she was not turning back today. Mira stepped fully inside the house with Anna still holding her hand. The door closed behind them with a heavy sound that echoed through the empty space. That sound felt strange and powerful at the same time. It was the sound of something shutting out the street. Anna looked back at the door, and then at her mother, as if asking permission to believe this moment was real. Mira nodded, and let out a slow breath she did not know she was holding. The room felt larger once their eyes adjusted to the dim light. Dust floated gently in the air and settled on the floor like soft ash. The walls were stained, but still standing. The ceiling sagged in one corner, yet it did not move. Mira walked slowly, placing each step with care. She had learned to listen to spaces the way others listen to people. The house spoke in creaks and quiet warnings. She paid attention to all of it. Anna let go of her hand and took a few small steps on her own. Her shoes made soft sounds against the floor. She looked around with wide eyes, taking in every detail. She touched the wall with her fingertips and then pulled her hand back to look at the dust. She did not complain. She did not ask questions right away. She was learning the space in her own careful way. Mira moved toward what looked like a kitchen. A narrow doorway led into a small room with a sink and an old counter. The cabinet doors hung crooked, but they opened. Mira turned the tap gently, expecting nothing. To her surprise, a thin stream of water came out. She laughed quietly before she could stop herself. The sound felt foreign in her mouth. Anna ran over and stared at the water like it was magic. Mira shut the tap quickly so they would not waste anything. Still, that small sign stayed with her. Water meant life. Water meant possibility. They explored the rest of the house slowly. There were 2 small rooms that could be bedrooms. One had a window facing the trees. Light filtered through the branches and painted moving shapes on the floor. Anna stood there for a long time, watching the shadows. She said it felt calm. Mira agreed. Calm was something they had not felt in a long time. They sat on the floor in the living room and shared the last of the rolls from earlier. Crumbs scattered across the wood, but Mira did not rush to clean them. For once, they were not eating while standing or hiding. They were sitting. That alone felt like progress. Anna leaned against her mother and asked if they could stay the night. Mira thought carefully before answering. She checked the windows and the roof again. She listened to the sounds outside. The neighborhood was quiet. She said yes, but only for one night to start. Anna smiled softly and rested her head on Myra's shoulder. As the day moved on, Mira began to work. She did not have tools, but she had hands and focus. She picked up loose boards and stacked them in one corner. She swept leaves out the door using an old piece of cardboard she found behind the chair. She opened windows to let fresh air in. Each small action made the house feel more awake. Anna helped by carrying light pieces and asking what things were called. Mira answered patiently. Teaching gave her a sense of steadiness. Later in the afternoon, someone knocked on the door. Mira froze for a moment. Fear returned quickly because strangers had not always been kind. She told Anna to stay behind her and walked to the door. She opened it just enough to see a man standing on the porch. He was older, with tired eyes and work-worn hands. He introduced himself as Paul and said he lived nearby. He had seen the door open and wanted to check if everything was all right. Mira chose honesty. She told him they were staying temporarily and that she planned to talk to the city office soon. Paul nodded slowly and looked at the house. He said the place had been empty for a long time. He warned her that it had problems and that fixing it would not be easy. His voice was not cruel. It was careful. Mira thanked him for the warning. She said she understood. Paul looked at Anna and then back at Mira. He said he hoped it worked out. Then he left without saying more. That night came faster than Mira expected. Without electricity, the house grew dark early. Mira lit a small battery lamp and placed it in the center of the room. The shadows grew longer, but they were not as frightening as Anna had feared. Mira laid out blankets on the floor of the common room. Anna helped arrange them like a nest. When they lay down, the house made quiet sounds as the temperature changed. Anna flinched at first. Mira whispered that houses talk when they rest. Anna listened and nodded. Sleep came slowly. Mira stayed awake longer than Anna, listening for anything that felt wrong. She thought about the city office and the papers she would need. She thought about money and work and the long road ahead. Fear visited her in quiet waves. Still, she noticed something new under it all. She felt grounded. The floor under her back was hard, but it was not moving. The roof above her was old, but it was still there. In the morning, light streamed through the window and woke Anna first. She sat up and smiled when she remembered where they were. Mira watched her from the blanket and felt a warmth spread through her chest. They washed their faces at the sink using a small cup. The water ran slowly, but it ran. Anna laughed when it splashed her nose. Mira laughed too, louder this time. They spent the day cleaning and organizing. Mira found an old broom in a storage space and fixed it with tape from her bag. She swept until her arms ached. Anna wiped surfaces with a cloth, pretending she was a grown worker with an important job. Mira praised her effort and meant it. Each corner they cleared felt like claiming ground. In the afternoon, Mira walked to the city office while Anna stayed with a neighbor woman Paul had introduced earlier. The office lines were long, and the answers were slow. Mira filled out forms and explained her situation again and again. Some people looked past her. Others listened without expression. One clerk finally told her the house could be leased cheaply if she met certain conditions. Repairs would be her responsibility. Mira nodded and agreed. Responsibility was something she already carried. When Mira returned to the house, tired and dusty, Anna ran to her with excitement. She said the neighbor had shown her how to plant seeds in small containers. Mira smiled and looked at the tiny pots lined near the window. They were simple and uneven, but they were hopeful. Mira sat down beside them and felt the weight of the day settle into her bones. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Mira stood in the doorway and looked out at the quiet street. She felt fear again, but it did not control her. She had chosen this place. She had chosen to try. The house stood behind her, imperfect and waiting. Mira stepped back inside and closed the door. The sound was firm. This time, it sounded like the beginning of something that might last. The first signs of trouble came in the middle of the night. Mira woke to a strange sound that did not belong to the house before. It was a low tapping mixed with a steady drip. She sat up slowly and listened. The air felt heavier and colder. She could smell rain before she heard it clearly. Outside, the wind pushed against the walls with growing strength. Anna stirred beside her and rubbed her eyes. She asked what the sound was. Mira told her it was just rain and that everything was fine. She did not want fear to rise too quickly. She stood up and walked carefully toward the living room. The battery lamp cast weak light, but it was enough to see water dripping from a corner of the ceiling. A small puddle had already formed on the floor. Mira felt her chest tighten. She had known this could happen. Knowing did not make it easier. The rain grew louder and stronger. Wind forced its way through cracks around the windows. The house groaned like an old thing being asked to move again. Anna sat up fully now, hugging her knees. Her voice shook when she asked if the house was breaking. Mira knelt beside her and held her close. She said the house was old and tired, but it was still standing. She said they just had to help it a little. Anna nodded, but her eyes stayed fixed on the ceiling. Mira moved quickly but carefully. She grabbed the plastic sheets she had saved from food packaging and old bags. She placed buckets under the dripping water and shifted them when they filled. She dragged the broken chair to block a draft near the window. Her arms burned, but she did not stop. She worked with quiet focus, like every movement mattered more than fear. Anna watched from the corner, silent and wide-eyed. As the storm reached its strongest point, thunder rolled in the distance. The house shook slightly, then settled again. Mira stood still for a moment, listening. She could hear water outside rushing along the street. She could hear the roof creak but not break. She realized something important then. The house was fighting with them, not against them. That thought gave her strength. Anna finally spoke again. She said she was scared. Mira did not tell her not to be. She said being scared was normal. She said courage did not mean fear disappeared. It meant moving even when fear stayed. Anna leaned against her and whispered that she trusted her. Those words landed deep inside Mira and held her steady. The storm lasted for hours, but it did not win. By morning, the rain slowed and then stopped. Gray light filled the rooms. The buckets were full, the floor wet, and the air cold. Still, the house stood. Mira sat down hard on the floor, exhausted. Anna smiled and laughed suddenly, surprised by the quiet. The sound echoed through the house and made it feel alive. Mira laughed too, tears running down her face without warning. Later that morning, Paul returned. He had seen the storm damage around the neighborhood and wanted to check on them. He stepped inside and looked at the buckets and the plastic sheets. He nodded slowly. He said many people would have left. Mira told him she thought about it, but she stayed. Paul smiled just a little and said staying was sometimes the hardest part. Paul came back that afternoon with tools and spare wood. He did not ask many questions. He showed Mira how to reinforce the weak ceiling corner and seal the worst cracks. Mira listened closely and followed his instructions. Her hands shook from tiredness, but she kept going. Anna handed them nails and pieces of wood, proud to be useful. By evening, the room felt stronger. Word spread slowly. A woman from 2 houses down brought hot soup. A young man offered extra paint he did not need. No one made promises. They just helped in small ways. Mira accepted each kindness with care. She knew help could disappear if she expected too much. Still, each gesture made the house feel less lonely. Days passed, and the rhythm of work settled in. Mira woke early, cleaned, repaired, and looked for jobs during the day. She found work cleaning offices in the evenings. The hours were long, but the pay was steady. She left Anna with neighbors she trusted. Every night, she returned tired but relieved to see the house still waiting for her. Anna started school nearby. The clothes were simple, but clean. The teachers were kind but cautious. Anna spoke little at first, then more each day. She came home with stories about reading time and drawing pictures. One picture showed a small house with flowers and 2 figures holding hands. Mira taped it to the wall near the window. She looked at it whenever she felt doubt return. The house continued to challenge them. Some days the sink clogged. Some nights the wind howled too loudly. Money stayed tight. Mira counted every coin and planned every meal. She felt fear often, but it no longer controlled her steps. She had learned the weak spots and the strong ones. She knew where to place her feet. One evening, Anna asked if they would have to leave again. Mira sat beside her and thought carefully. She told her she did not know everything about the future. She told her that no place was perfect. She also told her they had already faced worse and kept moving forward. Anna nodded and said she liked this house because it tried. Mira smiled because she understood exactly what her daughter meant. As weeks turned into months, the broken house slowly changed. Not in big dramatic ways, but in quiet, steady ones. The roof held better. The rooms felt warmer. The silence felt safe. Mira began to believe that risk had not been a mistake. It had been a step. One night, as Mira stood by the window watching the streetlights flicker on, she felt something settle inside her. The storm had tested them and failed. The house had not fallen apart. Neither had they. Mira closed the curtain and turned back toward Anna, who was already asleep. She whispered a promise to the quiet room. She said they would keep going. She said they would not give up now. The house felt different as the seasons shifted. The air inside grew warmer and steadier. Mira noticed it each morning when she stepped onto the floor and felt less chill rise into her feet. The walls no longer seemed to lean inward with worry. They stood quietly, holding the weight they were asked to carry. Mira took this as a sign that effort left marks even when no one was watching. Anna settled into her routine with surprising strength. She woke early for school and packed her small bag with care. She checked her shoes before leaving and reminded her mother not to forget lunch. Mira smiled at how quickly responsibility had found its place in her child. At school, Anna learned new words and brought them home proudly. She practiced reading aloud in the evenings, her voice growing clearer with each page. Mira listened closely while preparing simple meals. Those moments felt full and steady. Mira continued working long hours, cleaning offices after sunset. Her body ached, but she felt purpose in the tiredness. Each paycheck went first toward food, then supplies, then small repairs. She saved every extra coin in a jar near the window. The jar did not fill quickly, but it filled honestly. Mira learned to value slow progress. Fast change had failed her before. Neighbors became familiar faces instead of distant shadows. Paul stopped by often, sometimes with advice and sometimes just to talk. The woman down the street shared seeds and stories from her past. The young man with the paint returned to help finish one wall. No one called it charity. It felt more like shared effort. Mira made sure to give back when she could, offering cleaning help or watching children for short hours. Mutual care built trust quietly. The house itself began to show signs of renewal. Fresh paint brightened one room. A repaired window held back the wind. The porch no longer sagged under careful steps. Anna planted small flowers near the front, watering them every morning with focused care. She talked to them as if they could hear her. Mira watched and thought about roots and patience. She thought about how much could grow when given time. One evening, as the sun lowered behind the trees, Anna sat on the porch steps beside her mother. The air was calm and golden. The street was quiet. Anna leaned her head against Myra's arm and asked a question she had asked before. She asked what if the house fell apart one day. Mira looked at the house, then at her daughter. She did not rush her answer. She chose words that felt true and gentle. Mira told Anna that many things could fall apart. She said houses aged and plans changed. She said even strong people felt tired sometimes. She also said falling apart did not mean the end. It meant learning how to rebuild. She told Anna they had already rebuilt many things inside themselves. Anna listened carefully and nodded. She said she liked rebuilding because it meant trying again. Mira smiled and felt pride rise quietly. As time passed, the city paperwork was completed. The lease became official. The house was theirs to keep as long as they continued caring for it. Mira held the papers with steady hands and felt relief settle deep in her chest. It was not ownership in the way people dreamed about, but it was security. Security felt like a gift Mira had nearly forgotten how to accept. Anna celebrated by drawing a new picture. This one showed the same small house, but now it had bright windows and flowers around it. Mira hung it beside the first drawing. Together, they told a story of change. Mira stood back and studied them both. She realized how far they had come without realizing it day by day. There were still hard moments. Some nights, worry crept back in quietly. Bills needed paying. Work could disappear without warning. The future stayed uncertain. Still, Mira no longer felt trapped by those thoughts. She had learned that strength grew through action, not guarantees. Each morning, she woke and chose to continue. That choice had become familiar. On a quiet afternoon, Mira sat alone in the living room after Anna left for school. Sunlight streamed through the window and warmed the floor. Mira closed her eyes and breathed deeply. She remembered the night of the storm and the fear that nearly drove them away. She remembered the sound of rain and the weight of doubt. She also remembered standing her ground. That memory gave her confidence. When Anna returned home that day, she ran straight to her mother with excitement. She said her teacher had praised her reading. Mira hugged her tightly and told her she was proud. Pride filled the room and stayed there long after the moment passed. Mira understood then that safety was not just walls and locks. It was feeling seen and supported. As evening settled in, Mira cooked a simple meal. The scent filled the house and lingered gently. Anna helped set the table they had found and fixed together. They sat across from each other and shared food and stories. Laughter came easily. Silence felt comfortable. These were the moments Mira had dreamed about when everything felt impossible. Later, after Anna fell asleep, Mira stood at the doorway and looked out at the night. The street lights glowed softly. The flowers by the steps rested quietly. The house stood firm behind her. Mira felt gratitude, not for perfection, but for persistence. She understood now that the last bet had never been about luck. It had been about choosing to believe they deserved a place in the world. It had been about staying when leaving felt easier. It had been about holding on through fear and finding strength in care. Mira closed the door gently and turned off the light. The house remained still and warm. Inside it, two lives rested safely. And this time, nothing was falling apart.